Hooray! Yay! Congratulations! You have submitted the demonstration speech. A huge accomplishment here as we finish up week 8 and transition into our 9th module of a 16-week course. And I think congratulations are in order because you have leveled up. You have earned 20 points for Gryffindor. You are now halfway through a fairly stressful and I don't know, I'd say maybe anxiety-producing class. I don't think this is the easiest class in the world, so I think that it's important that we sit, perhaps turn off our devices and reflect on our, I don't know, reflect on our accomplishments. I think this is an excellent opportunity to look at our demonstration speech, to look at our video, and to ask ourselves, how did we do? What do we think? How did we prepare? Did my preparation work? Do I see clear structure? Do I see evidence of a lack of preparation? Or do I see evidence of complete preparation? What can I do differently as I move forward? And I think that's really what this video is about, is after getting the feedback regarding the extra credit assignment that was slipped into the end of the last video, I thought that I would just kind of offer a video in hopes of maybe orienting you or how to think about the informative speech as we move forward. Because the demonstration speech is a type of informative speech. It's just a more specific type of informative speech. So your next assignment is going to be, or I should say the next speech assignment is going to be 3 weeks from now, right? Week 11. And it's an informative speech in which it's going to be a 4 to 6 minute speech where the object of the game is for the speaker to inform the audience about a single idea that is contained within the thesis. And then the rest of the speech is an elaboration or explanation of that particular idea. The thesis is intended to be informative by nature and as a result is not intended to be evaluative. In other words, it's not a sentence that's making a claim that something's the greatest or something's fair or something's the best or nope, it's really just to explain potentially that Hoist Gracie had an influential role in the evolution of the early Ultimate Fighting Championships. Or to explain to my audience key differences between the consumption of sativa strains versus an indica strain. Or to inform my audience about the early formation of colonial America, right? And in addition, it's really not supposed to be controversial, right? So not controversial or not evaluative, but instead it's a sentence in which the speaker is going to elaborate this 4 to 6 minute message to an audience over live video conferencing technology. So that's what's going to be a little bit different, is that this next speech is the first time we're going to log in and Zoom with each other and be able to see each other as if it's this giant kind of FaceTime extravaganza where everybody's just screen timing each other. One at a time, you're going to speak as we sit and watch you on our screens and appreciate your mediated public speaking. And then when you're done, we clap and we move on to the next person. So don't forget to sign up. Got to sign up because there's lots of students in these 3 classes that I'm teaching and not a lot of people have signed up. So go sign up. I'll wait. You want to go down to like module 8, I think it's listed right now. By the time you see this video, it might be moved to module 9, but it's going to say informative speech sign up. So go sign up right now. I'll wait. All right, let's talk about the speech. So here's the good news, is that this speech is going to be structured in a very similar manner to the demonstration speech, which you've all shown through your demonstration speech. I guess you could say you've all demonstrated that you have a very good understanding of the structural aspects of the course, right? What a speech is supposed to be. Having in your introduction these 3 particular parts where you had an attention getter, moved into your thesis, then had a preview points. You had a body of the speech that was divided into 3 points. Right? Each of these points had perhaps evidence, an analysis, maybe a visual aid associated with it. The points were divided by each other by notions of a transition. right? A signal to let the audience know you were moving between points. And then at the bottom of the speech, you probably had some sort of creative clincher, something pithy that you ended the speech with. Okay? This is the foundation. I would say this is like the elemental structure of a speech, and where we're going is we're going to be adding to it. For the informative speech, instead of having just 3 parts to the introduction, you're going to have 5 parts. We're going to be adding here an established credibility line and also a motivate audience line. Okay. So you've already made this sandwich before. We're just adding kind of different kind of cheese and I don't know, maybe some pepperoncinis to it. I don't know. We're still going to have 3 points. We're still going to have 2 transitions. Only the informative speech, like your persuasive, is going to need to have 3 sentences to it. A review of the points, a link, and an introduction of the next points. Points, link, introduction, next point. And your conclusion, instead of having just 1 part to it, we're going to add a review of the points, and we're going to add a restatement of the thesis. If you have any particular questions about outlining, I think the textbook does a really nice job of providing an example of an outline on page 321. Right? Now this is filled out outline, but I would probably just write the basis of the outline on a piece of paper and start inserting ideas into the structure. Because I think by the end of this week, maybe middle of next week, I want to be done with my preparation outline. Now, I understand that some students have been sending me assignments with their ideas for their informative speech. Awesome. I've been trying to provide feedback for you in hopes that it's helpful. At the same time, there are students who have not turned in assignments, or there's also a population of students who are turning in assignments but then are emailing me wanting to have their speech be about something different. You are more than welcome to choose whatever topic you would like for your informative speech, as long as it's appropriate, because you're showing me that you know what an appropriate informative speech topic or even thesis is. If I haven't chosen a topic yet, personally, if I was a student, here's what I would do. I'd be looking at this outline and I'd be thinking to myself, I need to complete this outline. And I think the object of the game is to present it in such a way in 3 weeks that gives the impression that I have this information prepared, that I've internalized it to a certain extent. Because I don't want to be reading to my audience just out loud for 4 to 6 minutes. It's gonna be murder. It's gonna be brutal if I do that. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna think about the kinds of things that I'm kind of already into. Now, there are some textbooks, they make the argument that an informative speech should be an opportunity for a student to research something that they've never researched before, to learn something new. And I think that's admirable. I think that that's academically honest. Personally, I go in another direction. I'm more in the line of thought that an informative speech can be something that the student is already familiar with, and then perhaps builds upon that information or builds upon that knowledge. Right? So I would be thinking about like websites that I already go to, what my hobbies are, what my major is. I'd be looking there to think about what I can bring into as an informative speech. I kind of did that kind of research. I'm looking at my web history, which, my web history, comic books. I've been looking at some comic book stuff lately. Poker, I'm looking at some poker stuff recently. I don't know if you know anything about the Emerald Cup, but a person that I know bought me tickets to the Emerald Cup in December, so I've been researching exactly what the Emerald Cup is. And then I'm also going to Disneyland in I don't know, in a little while, so I've been kind of reading about Disneyland, like what Disneyland is, what's new in Disneyland, why do people go to Disneyland, so please don't judge me, but that's just kind of where I've been researching. So what I would then do is I would have an idea for a topic. Personally, I went into this morning, I was thinking I was going to write out a speech about video games. Particularly because I had a conversation with somebody that seemed to suggest that participation in video games causes violence. So I was like, all right, I'm going to go research. So then I went to the internet and I typed and I just started finding stuff. I found links, I found websites that I started just copying the articles and emailing them to myself. I just skimmed it really quick and then just email it, just throw it in the cloud. I went to Columbia College databases, went to Uncover, and if I found something good that I liked, I would just send it to the cloud. I just email it to myself. It's almost like I was playing a version of, what's that game show? Supermarket Sweep. I don't know if you've seen it before, but it's where the contestants are moving around a supermarket at lightning speed, trying to throw as much stuff in their cart. That's what I did during my research phase. When I was done, I had like a stack of articles that I could actually print out. And I looked at my stack. I was like, all right, stack. Like, what have I got? I go, well, here, this is an article about how video games actually don't cause violence. Kind of weird, okay. This is just about the emergence of military like iconography in new games. I guess that's kind of like, we see like an emerging of like kind of war stuff going on. Okay. This one is actually about just the relationship that video games has with just different functions of the brain. Here's another one, video games and memory. All right, put that there. Here's one about video games and perception. Okay, I'm going to put that over there. Here's one about video... Does that make sense? So I'm just kind of stacking these different piles, and then I look at the piles and I ask myself, all right, self, what do I have research about? And then I take that idea and that becomes the basis of my speech. So while I went into my research looking for kind of the relationship between video games and violence, it found that actually the biggest stack I had was about the relationship that playing video games has with certain brain activity. Right, so now I have a working specific purpose that I'm going to put up here, which is to inform my audience about the relationship that video game playing has with different cognitive functions. Yeah. And I think that I'm going to organize it with my 3 points with kind of each one being a different way. Right, one I would talk about memory retention, right, when you play video games, this is how it affects your short-term memory, according to research. My second point is going to be in the relationship that video game participation has with like perception. Right, because I found a couple articles about that. Just when you play video games, just regarding like how your brain, like the amount of information it can actually collect at a particular moment. So I got memory, I've got kind of in a sense like perception, and then third is going to be problem solving. Right, just in a sense like when people play video games, does it or does it not decrease your ability to solve complex problems? I don't know. So that's what I'm going to be approaching it. In a 5-minute speech, I think I want each of these points to be about 1 minute and 20 seconds. So that's kind of what I'm shooting for. And as far as an organizational pattern, your demonstration speeches were using a chronological organizational pattern, or at least they should have. I haven't watched them yet, but that's what I'm thinking is going to happen, in which it was organized, hey, here's my first point, and then after that's going to happen, you got to talk about your second point, and then what's going to follow the second point is the third point. Chronological organizational pattern. First this, then this, then this. It's a very common organizational pattern used in informative speaking. You've used it to demonstrate a process, but it can also be used to discuss the biography of an individual. Say, for example, I don't know, Mark Twain. He was born here, then he did this and this and this and that, and then finally blah, 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 blah. Right? We could talk about perhaps a chronological organizational pattern if we were explaining to somebody the Marvel Cinematic Universe. All right, well, first of all, there's this guy named Iron Man, and Tony Stark was in a cave, and then all of a sudden, blah, 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 and they realize there's an Infinity Gauntlet, and all of a sudden there's all these stones they have to get. Oh my goodness, all over the multiverse, people are... And then finally, in Avengers Endgame, it all built to a... Right? That's not the most common organizational pattern. The most common organizational pattern used in these particular kinds of assignments is known as a categorical organizational pattern, in which the points are related to each other by notions of subtopic. If I was to give a speech to inform my audience about 3 iconic rides found in Disneyland, well, first I would talk about Space Mountain. And my second point would be probably about the teacups, and then finally the Haunted Mansion, of course. Right? To inform my audience about the ways to determine the value of a diamond. Right? I might organize my 3 points around selecting where I've got cut, color, clarity, carrot. Is that right? I think so. I think that is. So I've got 4 to choose from. I'd have to select 3 of those and turn that into an organizational pattern here. Okay, so chronological organizational patterns, the points kind of have to follow a certain sequence. Topical organizational patterns, we can kind of mix and match a little bit, because do I start with the teacups and then end with the Haunted Mansion? Do I begin with the Haunted Mansion and put the teacups in the middle? Ugh, it's a quandary. It's a quandary. Those aren't the only types of organizational patterns. Your textbook in the Speak Up, when talking about informative speeches, has different organizational patterns, has about 5 of them listed, where it could be cause and effect, could be spatial. So there's different ways to organize an informative speech. It's really about what is the most appropriate for your idea and what's most appropriate for the audience. I would be personally trying to use an informative speech idea that I believed linked to the audience. In other words, like I was doing them a favor. I was trying to help them. My speech was about Disneyland. I don't think I would just give a speech about the rides, because I think people would find that boring. Instead, I think I would talk more about the underground hidden facilities of Disneyland, kind of the scene that you don't see, so that when people, if they do go to Disneyland, there's an additional kind of way of appreciating the Disneyness that's occurring, right? In a sense, the way that somebody could get certain drunk and security, all of a sudden a secret door opens and right, sucks the person in behind the door, and then they're put to the holding tank down below. And I don't know. I think that there's just something there. My speech about sativas and indicas, if you know what that is, I would make the argument in the speech that by understanding the differences between the two actually helps us become more educated and better consumers of it as a medicinal property. Because I would argue that if you consume the wrong thing, right, it's actually going to exacerbate your symptoms. It's actually going to perhaps make you more paranoid or anxious or hungry than you intended. Right, so by understanding the strains, we actually understand how to use it to our benefit from a medicinal perspective. Yeah, I think I'd be looking for ways to save the audience money, save the audience time, give the audience a life hack, tell them about something that by understanding Mark Twain, we also, in a sense, come to understand a little bit more about ourselves here in the Gold Country. I don't know, I'm just kind of throwing it out there. And then from a delivery perspective, I think I would be striving for, how can I hide my tells? Yep, how can I give a speech where I do 2 things? Well, first of all, I just hide any kind of lack of preparation, right? Because I think that's kind of the key of the course, is just how can I hide it that I haven't prepared. And then second, I think what I'd be striving for is, I think I would be striving for, can I demonstrate that I can control my body? That when I'm doing something, it seems intentional, and that there isn't anything accidental in the video. That perhaps, you know, maybe my message is doing one thing, but there's something in the video that I'm doing that seems contradictory. Right. And then if I could really build on that, I think the next thing I would try would be, can I now then start doing things intentionally, right? Perhaps it's a particular gesture, or perhaps it's a wink to that person over there that's sitting in my office waving to me right now, making funny faces. Can it be telling a joke? Can it be taking off my glasses and thinking about things? I don't know. I'm just going to play with it because I think that our culture is going increasingly in the direction of being mediated. I was talking to just 2 students recently, and both of their interviews occurred over a camera, over somebody just talking to a camera and then having the evaluator watch it later. So I'm becoming increasingly convinced that what we're doing here is the future. And I would use these opportunities to start practice, not just my weaknesses, but how I can start building upon my strengths. All right? But you guys doing great. I'm super excited about watching the demonstration speeches. I'm going to learn how to make some guacamole. I'm going to learn how to do my nails. I'm going to learn how to, I think, create a Dungeon Master screen. That's super exciting. Yeah, so I'm going to dive right into it. Just wanted to let you guys know that you're definitely on the right track. This is what you should be thinking about. This is it. This is the informative speech. You're doing great. This is also the persuasive speech. But that's going to be a different organizational pattern. All right. Let me know how I can help. Look out for my feedback, and I'll talk to you later.